Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into a brand new episode of the Smoak Break podcast here on the College Football Smoak Break channel. I am Craig Smoak, talking college football with you on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and it is Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Hopefully you're enjoying your turkey and mashed potatoes and cornbread or cranberries or whatever it is that you eat on this festive day. Hopefully you're having a good one with family, friends, or whatever your situation may be. I'm here with you as always on Tuesdays and Thursdays, even during the holidays, to talk some college football. And on the last episode, as we do on Tuesdays, looked back at the games that were, and as we do on Thursdays, looking forward to the games that will be. And these games, this set of games that we're talking about, highlighting the final week of the regular season. We have arrived, the final week of the regular season. Hard to believe, but it's always hard to believe when we do. The seasons always go by so fast, no matter what the year is. And this year, certainly no different, but still a ways to go. Conference championship weekend still to follow. And this weekend, going to sort out a lot of what we'll be talking about a few days from now. But of course, bowl season, playoff season, as we probably should call it now at this point, because that takes much more precedent over the bowl games. But nevertheless, here we are, the last week of the regular season, and a bunch of big and intriguing games and storylines as well. I forgot to mention this on the Tuesday edition. We got into just kind of the games that were the games that we had picked on 365 Sports and went over those results. But there has been some other action before we get into the games this weekend on the coaching fronts. Dave Aranda, a part of that school, announces he will be staying for another year, that they'll get their NIL in order, and that quite simply they don't have the money to quite move on just yet, or in Baylor's case specifically, the money or an athletic director to make the hire. That's kind of important to have, and Baylor announcing in a letter from school president Linda Livingstone last week that they are in a mode of searching for their next athletic director, but that in the meantime, she announced they have retained Dave Aranda, and although the wording was not for the 2026 season, that is what was implied and what was certainly received and understood to be the message by the staff, by fans, and by everybody involved who's not trying to look for a loophole in what she said. Dave Aranda will be back in 2026, barring something completely unforeseen, and he will have a new athletic director that will possibly move on sooner rather than later. It just won't be, it looks like, this offseason. So the pledge of sticking it out one more year comes out of Waco, Texas this past week. So that is one job you thought might open up that will, in fact, not. That is of note for a team like an Oklahoma State or an Arkansas, who figured to be in the Eric Morris sweepstakes. Baylor, a job that definitely could have caught his fancy and perhaps been a leader in the clubhouse for his services, but they will not be in the hunt. Meanwhile, Florida State, a part of the very same category, announcing that they're going to put some more money into NIL, and they're going to run it back because, quite frankly, they don't have the money to pay out that buyout for Mike Norvell, who, yes, made a playoff run just a couple of years ago. And we know what a rotten situation that turned out to be with the injury to Jordan Travis and the effect that it had on the playoff committee, and Florida State just royally getting screwed. And really, without rehashing that whole thing, like, you get the argument, but just the whole situation sucked for Florida State. And you thought, how can it get worse? And it's just been worse ever since. And it hasn't been good at all since then. And it's not going to get better anytime soon unless Mike Norvell can turn this thing around. And what we do know is he at least is going to get the opportunity to. Florida State announcing, much like Baylor with Aranda, that Norvell will be returning. So I know 365 Sports' Paul Catalina, FSU alum, not thrilled by the news, very much wanting to move on at this point, much like the Baylor fans. But this is a part of that category of schools, just whether it's the crowded market, whether it's all of the house settlement money that you're preparing to now have to put to the side to pay the athletes directly, whether it's the buyout money. There's just a lot of things going on, and it's not as simple as the fans or media sometimes want it to be. I don't have to explain this like it's five to you guys, but just saying it's easier said than done. And so as much as a Baylor fan wants to move on from Aranda, no athletic director, not enough for the buyout, and then a new staff and a new coach and all of these things all in this time period, not going to work out. Same thing now with Florida State. And you've seen this as well, this category of we're sticking it out for at least one more year with Wisconsin and Luke Fickell, Maryland and Mike Loxley. So that list of guys who are getting that one last opportunity now grows by a couple more names this past week. So that's the latest on the carousel. And, of course, there is a big domino to fall this weekend after the Egg Bowl on Friday. On Saturday, at some point in time, I'm not sure exactly when they've determined this will become publicly known, whether it'll be some message on social media, a random post on Instagram, or an appearance on College Game Day or something. But Lane Kiffin, after the Egg Bowl on Friday, will be making his decision the following day on whether or not he will be taking one of these jobs like LSU or Florida, or whether he will remain with Ole Miss. And obviously there will be, as I said, it's a domino. There will be a domino effect. Is LSU and Florida still looking for a head coach after Saturday? And if so, obviously very interesting. And somebody, if not both of them, is going to have to be, because he can't coach both places. Or is Ole Miss now suddenly going out and looking for a head coach? That is where all eyes now are on the coaching front. But there was one more piece of movement that did occur this past week, and that was Cal deciding to throw their hat in the ring with Justin Wilcox out after several seasons there in Berkeley, and just a very middle-of-the-road record and a very middle-of-the-road football program, despite having a great young quarterback in the freshman Jerron Kiabe Sangapolutele. It will now be JKS watch to see whether or not he enters the portal. If he does, he stands to make a lot of money into the seven figures, and he will have some big-time suitors. But depending on who Cal hires, he did give a pledge to Cal when it was thought Wilcox would be back just a few weeks ago. He gave his pledge that he will return. But now with Wilcox out, that is definitely one of the big potential portal dominoes and portal quarterbacks that could really be a major storyline this offseason. And if they go and hire Tosh LaPoy or whoever ends up being the guy, and they can convince JKS, which should be item number one on their agenda, to stick around, that would be a huge win for whoever that new coach is. But Cal Berkeley now in the hunt for a head coach as the list keeps growing. And I'm very curious to see how many more jobs might open up. We've had the pledges, FSU and Baylor, Wisconsin, Maryland. We're sticking it out, but there's still a bunch of jobs that are open, and now another one in Cal, and who knows if some more might open up as well. But something's going to give this weekend with Lane Kiffin. Something's going to give this weekend as well when it comes to the results and their impact on the conference championship games. Don't have enough time to get into all the conference scenarios, but we do have some time to get into some picks for the biggest games this week, and the ones that we're picking on 365 Sports. On Saturday at 3:30, you're going to have some Florida State action. You're going to have some Miami-Pittsburgh. You're going to have some Ohio State-Michigan. You have Vanderbilt-Tennessee. But we're starting off with the big game on Black Friday, Texas A&M and Texas. Gotta love it, man. These two teams, there is no love lost, although they're a little bit too lovey-dovey since they both became members of the SEC. Like, there's a hatred there, but I don't like how I'm seeing, like, both sides kind of schmooze with each other. It's very much that weird SEC thing. Like, I want you to be more like Alabama, Auburn in your hatred, not like buddy. And there is some hatred there, but there's been like some ganging up together along with some Oklahoma fans in the Big 12. And it's like, why are you guys looking in the rearview mirror? I just don't understand it very much, but they will not be lovey-dovey this Friday, which is good because it doesn't need to be, and it shouldn't be. Texas at home in Austin, 6:30 kickoff. This is the main course on Thanksgiving, Black Friday football day, and Thanksgiving obviously Thursday. This is the main course on the post-Thanksgiving Friday slate. I should say it like that. Give me Texas A&M to win this game, man. Arch Manning's been playing a lot better. Texas has made some tweaks offensively along that line that's helped him out a bit. Still can't run the ball effectively, but they've got a good defense. I get a weird feeling anytime Texas is in a position to play spoiler, especially against A&M. First meeting a long time last year, Texas pretty much smothered them. A&M couldn't score, but I do think A&M's much better offensively this go around. And Marcel Reed, arguably the Heisman frontrunner at this point in time, this is A&M's time. I think they've got the right mindset with Elko. I think they've got a complete team for the most part, and I think they can handle their business in Austin. I'm going to take the Aggies to win this game, but I do think it's going to come down to the wire. I think it'll be a very close contest. And no, it would not be shocking at all in any of these rivalry games to see the underdog win, but Texas, very slight underdogs at that, at home, and very talented. This is not David versus Goliath. This is Goliath versus Goliath, if anything. And so what a game and what pageantry we should see on Friday night. But I'm going to go ahead and take the Aggies to move on to the SEC championship game and keep their undefeated season going. But it will be easier said than done against Arch and the Horns. Saturday at 11 a.m., a couple teams hoping that they could find their way into the ACC championship game. And the ACC, just an absolute mess this season. But neither of these teams in control either, as SMU and Virginia are in the driver's seats as far as booking spots in the ACC title game. Miami and Pittsburgh, though, hoping to get a win and then have the dominoes fall to where they can slide their way into that game. Miami's still the highest-ranked ACC team at this point, but with no guarantee to get into the conference championship game. And Pitt, coming off of a big win last week against Georgia Tech in Atlanta, did not see that coming, that whooping of the Yellow Jackets. So that added a little extra spice to this game. And Saturday at 11 a.m., both these teams will still feel like if they win, they'll have a shot for the bigger picture. So give me Miami in this one. Really impressed by Pitt last week, but I think Miami is just a better overall football team. And I think with both to play for, this ought to be a nasty little fight. But I'm going to take the Hurricanes on the road Saturday at 11 a.m. Also Saturday at 11 a.m., it's the game, Ohio State at Michigan. Ohio State wins. They're in the Big Ten title against most likely Indiana. Still a path for an Oregon, but Michigan, really a team that could throw things for a loop here. Ohio State's in the playoff regardless, but this is the game, and it's about just the hatred. And I mean, this is like what I feel like A&M and Texas should be like. I mean, these two teams don't ever play lovey-dovey with one another. They can't agree on private equity. They can't agree on anything, much less chant Big Ten together. This is what it's all about, and this is the hatred that you love with college football. This needs none of the decorations or the icing on the cake. This is good as is, but there are some ramifications for the Big Ten and the college football playoff with this one. Give me Ohio State on the road. Michigan has certainly had worse teams that have beaten good Ohio State teams. This Michigan team's not a bad team by any stretch, and they are at home. But give me Julian Sayin and the Buckeyes, Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Smith and company, that defense to go ahead and finish out and take care of business and remain the number one team in the country with a win over Michigan. Vanderbilt, Tennessee, Saturday at 2:30. Vanderbilt with the slightest of chances to get into the college football playoff. What an incredible year they've had. The last ride of Diego Pavia in Knoxville against the Vols, who have had a pretty nice year, not necessarily what they had hoped for, but with the curveball they were thrown in the offseason with Nico Iamaleava and that whole situation, Tennessee still with a respectable year for sure. And walking into this game at home as favorites, I'm going to take Vanderbilt, partially because I need to gain a game in the standings, and this is the only one I feel confident about going the other direction with versus my counterparts that are picking Tennessee. But also, like, this is the game that Diego Pavia is like meant to win on his way out of SEC play, in my opinion. Like, this is the storybook ending, is going and beating the Vols, your hated rival, at their place, and then talking trash as you leave the field. Hopefully not peeing on it like we've seen in his past, but nevertheless, Diego Pavia, give me the Commodores to roll into Knoxville and get a win here. That is my upset pick of the week, although I don't know how much of an upset it would actually be. It would definitely be one of the more entertaining games you could possibly have this weekend, and wouldn't cause a ton of disruption, but depending on results elsewhere, could create some very interesting narratives to talk through as we then would go into conference championship weekend. And then Saturday at 3:30, Florida State and Florida. Neither one of these teams are ranked, nor do they deserve to be. One of these teams has already fired their coaches of a few weeks ago. One of these teams just announced their coach is staying, much to the dismay of his fan base. But you talk about hatred. There is no love lost here between the Gators and the Seminoles. Give me the Noles here. Just don't love the way that DJ Lagway has been playing this season, turning the ball over way too much. Florida waiting on pins and needles, and should know, you would think, by Saturday at 3:30 of whether or not Lane Kiffin is their next head coach, or whether he'll be at LSU, or whether he'll be staying at Ole Miss. You would think they'll know that by kickoff. So it could be some interesting talk around Florida entering this game, and certainly will be. We're either going to take the broadcast and talk about new head coach Lane Kiffin and all the excitement surrounding that, or where the hell are they going to turn now that Lane Kiffin's staying at Ole Miss or going to LSU? And, oh, yeah, you're also playing the Noles, but that's going to be a part of the conversation for sure on Saturday. Give me the Noles to roll into Gainesville. I don't think there's too much to home field here. I mean, these teams have beaten each other back and forth. And I like FSU at the quarterback position just for starters before moving on down the rest of the line. At this point, I think with Norvell back, and you know that, on the other side, all the uncertainty with just who's leading you the rest of the way, it won't have too much of an impact on this game. I just think Florida State's in a sturdier spot and a bit more confident spot moving forward, at least for right now. I also think they're just a bit better of a football team based on what we've seen this year, but who the heck knows? This could be the world's biggest pillow fight come Saturday at 3:30, but I will take FSU. So there you go, taking A&M at UT's place on Black Friday, going ahead putting their stamp on an undefeated regular season, taking Vandy over Tennessee, taking Ohio State over Michigan, taking Miami over Pittsburgh, and taking FSU at Florida, all road teams. Surely I will be 5-0 this weekend, right? Probably not, but I'll enjoy whatever I am wrong about, unpacking why, and what I'm right about, and unpacking why, and talking about that next week. Until then, have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy all the college football madness in this final week of the regular season, and whatever madness is still to come in the coaching carousel, and whatever occurs with Lane Kiffin's decision. We'll be talking about it next Tuesday here on the College Football Smoak Break channel. Please hit like and subscribe to support the channel. And until next time, have a great one, everybody. I'm Craig Smoak.